my favorite shows, gosh darn it. Anyway.
That's a nice intro. I'll take that.
So here's the thing. I want to talk to you about your book right off the hop but before we do that, I have an icebreaker question I ask everybody. If you could only eat one sandwich for the rest of your life, and you only had that for every day or every 2 or 3 days, what sandwich would it be?
It would have.
And you're a fitness guy.
Yeah, I know that, right? But this is for the rest of my life now. You see, so I have to put taste in there. I got to put nutrition in there, and I got to put, I guess, something that I could handle for the rest of my life, and that would be a fried oyster club.
Really?
Yeah. When I was shooting in New Orleans last year, I had the opportunity to go out there for a couple of weeks, so I got to experience the life. And wow, I have never had that before in my life, a fried oyster club, but it was the best thing I ever tasted.
Really? So,
oh my gosh! So it's a regular club, except instead of having turkey, you had fried oysters in there. It was to die for.
So when you talk about fried oysters, are they just thrown in the oil and cooked like an old school fry, or are they battered?
No, they're like battered, but then they fry them. They don't deep fry them.
Okay.
And then they make it just like a club sandwich with bacon and lettuce, tomato, a little bit of mayo. It was so good.
That sounds freaking delicious. Now let's get on to the important part.
I had one, and then I was thinking about this place literally for 4 days after that. So I said that we have to go back to that place before I get out of here. So I went twice. Great.
Be careful. They're putting something in the sandwiches. If you're thinking about them for 4 days, holy cow. Now, Jason, you grew up from what I'm reading, Ottawa. Is that correct?
No, I went to university there. I grew up in Montreal.
Oh, you're one of those people. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Right. You're one of those people. Yes, we're Stanley Cup winners. That's who we are.
Do they have a team there anymore?
Listen, we still have the most Stanley Cups of any team in the history of the game. So regardless of how many years it's been since we won one, we're still the champs.
That's fair. That's fair. With hockey, I told you a little bit of my story earlier. Hockey has touched us all as Canadians, and it's what brought us together for like 60 years of our country, right? It's what connected us.
Still does.
On a personal note, do you think it really still does across the country as much as it used to?
Absolutely. People can't wait for hockey to start right now. It's especially in the situation that we're in right now, and with the lack of anything live and the lack of anything new, an opportunity to be able to watch some hockey that's actually happening live, regardless if it's with people in the stands or not. It's still exciting. And being a Canadian boy, I can't wait to see the playoffs. I can't imagine a year without hoisting the cup. I mean, that one year where they went on strike, it was horrible. Literally, it changed the makeup of our country across the board, if you think about it, because what happens from like April till end of June, mid-June, is just hockey in the whole country, And
that makes sense.
I'm looking forward to it myself,
That's awesome. If they hadn't beat me up when I was a kid, I'd probably like hockey too. But
I started skating at the age of 3, and I played competitively, like very competitively, right up until about 16. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I want to talk to you about the different things you got going on, but the one that interests me the most is Captain Pump.
Yeah.
And the reason it interests me most, let's face it, I'm a parent. Are you a parent, Jason?
I'm not.
You're not.
I have a lot of clients, so I tell people that I have a lot of kids.
Got to feed the kids, right?
I get a lot from them, trust me.
So what's your inspiration behind a fitness book for children?
I've been in fitness my whole life, so I've been training people ever since I was 17. So that's just in my blood. And sports is something I basically, like I just told you, I started skating at the age of 3. So, I have it in my blood as well. So it's all about sports and keeping fit and exercising. So then when I was old enough to, start really focusing on my game, so I was like 12, 13 years old, I would create this makeshift training circuit in my backyard and in the garage. So I would take out all of the lawnmowers and the furniture and anything that was in my way, and I'd put up a hockey net, and I'd put up we had one of those boards. It was kind of like almost like a plexiglass, but it was like a white finish. And I would
Yep.
use that to stick handle on before, they even had them in the stores. I just get this big piece of plexiglass that with a white finish and start, just working on stick handling and puck movement and puck handling. And then I do all kinds of running in the backyard. So I just, from an early age, it was just part of me. So that's what I have to do. To get better, I got to train. I got to make sure that I'm doing something that other people are not doing, so that when I get back on the ice, I have that advantage. So that's
Yeah.
how that came about. And then I went to university and studied kinesiology years later. So I have a degree in how and why the body moves in a scientific manner. So that scientifically brought me into the concept of how important it is to be fit, healthy, and take care of yourself. And then over the years, getting into acting was just a normal jump for me to, look at how can I put all of my loves together and create something that will be beneficial to a segment of the population that needs it most. It's the most vulnerable, that really are so longing for, some kind of positive influence to help them make the right decisions and choices. So I created the Adventures of Captain Pump.
So with Captain Pump, I was looking through the webpage and stuff like that. What do you want to be the impact from the book? I know you want to get it out there. Obviously, it's a money-making venture, hopefully. But what do you really want the impact to be for parents and kids?
I'm hoping that it will help parents understand how important it is to show the kids a positive way of taking care of themselves, so that the kids will want to do it themselves. But if it works the other way around, I'm just as happy. If I can influence children to adopt certain healthy lifestyle choices at an early age, and maybe even influence their parents by bringing them on board to eat a little more healthy, or exercise a little more often, or maybe go for an evening walk as a family, or do something that would get them away from screens and televisions, I think that would be kind of cool.
So in my mind, there was a generation that missed the they were the latchkey kids, right? The 1990 through probably 2005 really weren't taught in school properly about nutrition, about exercising themselves, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Um, I guess what I'm saying is, what do you think the reasons behind that are? What are the reasons? My generation is the first generation that's supposed to die sooner than our parents would at the same age. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we ate crap for 20 years of our lives, basically. We became fat, we became lazy. How do we reverse that in society so we understand it
That's a
on
great
a deeper
question.
level?
Yeah, that's a great question. What happened was they took gym out of the regular curriculum in schools,
Yeah.
and they replaced the arts with computer classes. That instead of adding the computer classes to the arts, they eliminated the arts, eliminated physical activity, and made the kids study that much more and sit in front of computer screens and learn how to write lines and understand what DOS is. Remember what DOS?
I remember DOS.
Before we had Windows. That's what made me hate computers as a kid, because I didn't want to sit there for a half an hour, write code to get a squiggly line across the screen. Wow, ooh, that was really exciting.
Two colors.
Oh, it was horrible. I mean, I dropped that class pretty quickly in university, I tell you. But what happened for me was, to help kids, try and get them, thinking that it's important to still exercise your body and take care of your body and your mind the same way that you would anything else that you value. To keep the concept of valuing yourself as your priority is what I'm trying to help instill into the kids, and even into young adults. Because I think the most important thing is taking care of yourself. When you can take care of yourself and you feel good about who you are, you can then be a beneficial source to other people. If you try and take care of other people and you ignore yourself, then somewhere along the line, everybody's going to lose out, because you're going to break down and you won't be able to take care of the people that you're sacrificing yourself for right now.
That makes sense.
That's pretty much my goal, is to help recreate the idea of when I was a kid, how important it was to exercise and be outside, and to experience the fresh air while you're playing sports, and while you're there's also the whole camaraderie aspect of it too. I mean, when we were kids, I was just talking to a client of mine earlier about this today, saying that, you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to come into the house until it got dark at night. You know,
Yep.
in the wintertime, we'd be playing hockey on the street. In the summertime, we'd be playing baseball and soccer in the park, right?
Yep.
And we had so many kids in our area that we had organized leagues. So we had like 5, 6 teams, and then went by street. You know, if
Holy
you lived
cow.
on 56th and 57th Street or whatever it may be, then, you know, together you guys were a team, or you got a group of 5 guys together and you created a team. And we had a whole league. We would have 16 to 20 games a season, then a whole playoff schedule. And that was what we did. And I remember, you know, getting yelled at because I wouldn't come in if it was dark, because our game wasn't over. Luckily, I lived on a dead end street, so we played all our games right in front of my mom's house, so she could keep an eye on us the whole time. You know, always a method to my mom's madness, let me tell you. But the cool thing was, is we'd be out there, and, you know, and we'd come in, and my God, you know, you feel fantastic, and then you can eat almost anything and not worry about where it's going to go, because, you know, if you're really active, you can get away with eating some junk food and eating a lot of carbs and eating a lot of things that today they tell kids to stay away from. You know, it's because of the lack of physical activity, in my estimation. If you got kids to be more active, you wouldn't have the obesity rate that you have today. As you said earlier, you know, it's the first time in the history of the world, basically, that the younger generation will be dying before the older generation. And we have to reverse that by getting through to young people how important it is to maintain physical fitness. You know, when we were in school, we would have to take those government exams for physical fitness. Do you remember those?
Yep. You had to stretch out and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, the excellence or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. Even if you were not that great, you still had to kind of train for it. And in one of my books, I deal with that issue. In one of the books, the kids have to go through one of these programs, and there's, of course, a couple of kids that have trouble because they're no good at gym, but they're afraid that if they fail this particular part of their gym class, they're going to fail the course altogether. So then they instill the help from other people, and, you know, it's kind of that whole camaraderie thing. So when we were kids, we got outside and we played together, right, as a group, and we developed friendships that way. Now, more people play and see an avatar instead of an individual, you know? And I'm just hoping that somewhere along the line it's going to reverse, you know?
Do you see now, with Corona happening and all this stuff happening in the world, I'm seeing a lot more of people cooking, sitting down, having actual meals that are relatively nutritious versus the crap that comes in a package, just basically salt and sugar. Do you see it changing after Corona? In your mind, do you see an actual change happening? Or do you think we're going to go back?
Actually, because I was just finishing up my sauce. But I love to cook. I mean, I started cooking at a very early age because of my bodybuilding years. And I had a fantastic mentor. I was very fortunate to have a great mentor who taught me all the ins and outs of how important it was to eat properly. And at an early age, I decided my mom couldn't cook anymore because she salted everything. So then I became the cook of my own food. She said, fine, just cook yourself. And that's what I ended up doing. So I've been doing that for forever, and I love it. I even have a show called What's Cooking Grandma that we're going to get going here. I'm very excited about that because we've decided to do it online. And we're going to have grandmas cook in their kitchen, and we're going to do it through like a Zoom where we can watch them and we can talk to them about what they're doing. It's going to be a very interesting concept. I think that with the Corona and how things are going, I think that we're in the middle of a transition period. I think it's a transition period that is going to be permanent. I don't think it's something that, I don't think we're going back to the same ways that we did it in February, for example, January, February. I think all that's gone and we're starting something completely new in so many different fields and different areas. I think we're realizing how unimportant office space is becoming. You know, we can do so much from our homes through our computers. Thank goodness we do have the internet and we have online connections. If we didn't have that, it would be chaos. But I think because we have this, there's a whole new opportunity and a whole new way of living that's going to be opening up. And it's almost like the 2000 boom, you know? You kind of don't really know what to expect, but it's definitely going to be different than it was in the 1900s.
You talk about the office space, and one of the things that's interesting to me is if you're an accounting firm, why would you bring those 1,000 people back into that office building that you're paying $2 million rent on?
Absolutely.
Send them home with a laptop and work from home. No
Right.
more rent. And the
Right.
laptop will last 3 or 4 years.
All the business traveling, all these meetings that you would go to and waste time because 3 hours it would be spent just talking about what you did the night before,
Yep.
all that.
this interview, if we didn't have this technology that we're on right now, I would have had to fly to you, bring a bunch of equipment, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And now it's accessible to everyone on Earth. Like, it's crazy. So
exactly, and on top of that, like you said, it's accessible. You'll be able to release this in real time to anybody who wants to watch this around the world. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I want to talk about your other stuff as well. Your normal website. I think I went there, but actually I didn't. I went to your Internet Movie Database thing, IMDb stuff, and so you're the son of a can girl. Let's get this straight. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like the classic legs up?
Yeah, mom was a can girl. She was she was
really where?
She was a teacher in Whitehorse in the Yukon.
Okay.
And my dad was a rodeo rider.
Okay.
And they met up in Whitehorse and literally got married 2 weeks after they met.
On top of an ice castle.
On top of an ice castle with her can girls as her maid of honor and my dad wearing his white cowboy hat. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Sorry about talking about your parents, but it allows us to connect with you a little bit more.
I like that story because you know what? A lot of people don't think it's real, but it's real, all right.
A lot of people have never been to the north or Saskatchewan or Ottawa or any of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I tell people my dad's a gold panner in British Columbia, and they think he's some Yukon guy. No, he's out there doing it right now. You were in a bunch of things like 0 Hour and Daredevil, from what I'm reading, and Gotham. What's been your favorite role as an actor over the years?
I loved my last role, which was in NCIS New Orleans. It was a fantastic role, and I got to visit a place that normally I probably would have wanted to visit, but it's probably not a place I would have necessarily gone to, So to have the opportunity to have gone there and spend like close to 2 weeks, it was over 2 weeks. It was fantastic to visit the French quarters and different aspects because we were shooting throughout New Orleans, and then we went north into this area. Literally, we crossed a bridge that was 27 miles long. It was
holy cow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like during storm seasons, they close half the bridge down because it's really dangerous, and the water comes right up onto the road when it's like really wavy and stuff. I forget the name of the bridge itself, but it was 27 miles long. It was so crazy. But that was a fantastic role. It was also the first time that I worked when on the call sheet itself, because when you're working, you get a call sheet, and it tells you who's there that day. It tells you, the weather. It tells you everything about the location, everything about the crew, and it also tells you about the extras and so on. So I'm looking at this call sheet, and it says snake wrangler. I'm thinking, oh wow, cool. They're gonna have a snake wrangler in the scene. So what? They're gonna walk by, or like it's kind of. I thought they were extras. No. These are actual people walking around with buckets that says poisonous on them, and they're walking around with a makeshift golf club that has a little handle at the top and these two little tongs at the end to move poisonous snakes out of the way of us shooting. Can you believe that? I've never seen that in my life. And then through the day, I asked the guy, so you catch anything? Oh, yeah. He opened up the top, and he'd have a cottonmouth in there and a copperhead. He says, this one over here, you get bit by this one, you're dead. This one over here, you got a 50-50 chance. So that was
that's fantastic.
And then, of course, shooting with Scott Bakula, man, that guy is just A1. And he's a hockey fan, huge hockey fan from St. Louis. And this was the year that St. Louis won the Cup. And it was just before the playoffs that we shot this whole thing. And so we were going back and forth about, how St. Louis had a chance because they were really doing well, right? They went from 0 at Christmas time to all of a sudden being like the best by the end of the season. Yeah, it was fantastic. So he was actually at the games and stuff like that, and it was really cool to see him.
The story you just told me, I get to talk a little bit on my own show a little bit. I'm a pro wrestling fan. And the story you just told me is almost like one of the stories where pro wrestlers are traveling up north in Saskatchewan, and they're crossing these ice bridges that are miles and miles long. But yeah, that's an awesome story. The fact that there's a snake wrangler. I'm in Saskatchewan. There's like 3 snakes here, and only one of them's poisonous. So
that's the thing, right? Growing up in Canada, you don't see poisonous snakes. You see garter snakes your whole life, right?
Yeah. Well, Saskatchewan has rattlers, but that's it, right? And they're only for like 100 miles in the south. It's really weird. So 2013, you were on Broadway. Now, one of my goals is eventually to take my show to Broadway. I do a hypnosis show, a comedy hypnosis show. And Gym Shorts, how did it feel to be on Broadway?
That was an off-Broadway show. It was really cool. It was a show that had to do with the concept of a gym, but dealing with the issue of homosexuality.
Okay.
And using the gym as a way to make a connotation to how the individual who was gay, who happened to be the aerobics instructor, who was the Zumba instructor, who I wanted to be, the CrossFit guy, had to deal with, the different elements and kind of skate between, being who he was and who I wanted him to be as his coach. So basically, I had the father figure role, and then the owner of the gym, she played like the mother figure role, and it was really an interesting play on that whole context. So it was a really fun time. It was an opportunity to get in front of live. There's nothing better than working in front of a live audience when there's no opportunity to retake.
Yeah.
It's just one shot deal. You got one shot to do it, and the show has to go on. It's like I was a professional drummer for many years, and anything and everything could stop on stage, right? As long as the drummer kept going, everything was fine. But if the drummer stopped, everything stopped.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing with live. When you're doing theater, you can't stop the show. If you stop, everything stops. You got to keep it going. And I enjoyed that.
It's kind of like a hockey game. You only get one shot at it, right? And then it's gone afterwards.
Exactly.
I like the story of it from the bodybuilding world, and this is just a probably a strange question, but you were bodybuilding and doing stuff like that. Do you think that how do I word this without being highly offensive? So you talked about the gay instructor in the show you were in. Do you think that the world in general, specifically in the masculine sports world, is starting to make the same turn as the rest of the world has in accepting gay culture and accepting people for who they are?
You mean sports in general?
Yeah, sports in general.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of gay athletes that have already crossed the bridge. They've already come out. There was an openly gay NFL player, right? And I'm sure there's a lot more that are probably wanting to come out but afraid of what society's going to think. And you know what? It's a shame, because in the end, people are people, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, as long as they're not ones that break the law. I think that we should all be free to choose whatever we want to choose and be whoever we want to be, and look at life as an experience to come together and not push everybody away. And if we can do that, we'll be better off. I mean, here it's definitely shown us with this Corona situation, a lot of people coming together, a lot of everybody's trying to help out in one way or another. I was doing some free Zoom classes for some people that needed some help, and then I'd have other friends that are making masks. I have other friends that are doing deliveries for elderly. I mean, we're all trying to do something, and if we all do a little bit of something, that little bit of something that we're all doing will amount to one big something. You know what I mean?
The only reason I'm not connected to the sports world, I'm connected to the entertainment world, and the entertainment world basically doesn't matter who you are, you're brought in, right? So I was just wondering if the sports world was that accepting as well. We have about 5 minutes left. I want you to promote all your stuff right now as much as you can. Where can people find you? Where can people buy your stuff? Where can people do that? And before we end off, I got one more question before we actually end off after you promote yourself.
Well, I'm really excited because I'm starting a Captain Pump YouTube channel.
Oh.
The idea right now, unfortunately, because of the situation we're in, we're not going to see a lot of production for quite a while, especially the way we knew it. So I think it's really important to keep creative and to keep your careers going as much as you can. So I started to do this, and I'm about 2 weeks away from starting to shoot, and I'm very excited about that. So that's something that I can reach out to you later and give you all of the information once we get up and running. Being in pre-production is a fantastic opportunity to plan this whole thing and to see all the different ways of how I can do this, because of course I have to play all the characters, right? I can't have anybody else on set. I can't have anybody else doing any of it. So I'm learning how to edit. I'm learning the lighting. I'm learning how to green screen, all that kind of great stuff. So I encourage anybody and everybody out there to follow some kind of an idea that you have, some kind of dream, some kind of a plan that you had previously. I also encourage people to exercise. Keep exercising as much as you can. It's hard sometimes if you don't have a gym to go to, but we have so much that we can do, as opposed to if we focus on that as opposed to what we don't have, we can accomplish a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of working out with a couple of dumbbells. I got a ball, I got some bands, and I'm doing the best that I can, and that's the key right now. And I'm also finding that I don't need as much as I thought I did. When you don't have, you find a way. Being resourceful is a key in this whole thing. Finding a way to accomplish something that you want to do is really important right now. Don't fall in a rut. I've seen a lot of people like gain a lot of weight right now because they're just falling in that rut. So if I can encourage people just to get up and do a little bit of something every day and get back on the horse, as we say in good old Saskatchewan. Get back on the horse, because you know what? You got to keep trotting away. You can't just stop. So
what I find,
go ahead.
Sorry, I find something you said I find interesting. I'm a follower of old school kinesthetics where they had nothing, where it was you use your body weight to exercise. And I think people forgot that. It's all about lifting plates and throwing around dumbbells. It doesn't have to be. You got 60 pounds in your chest. And if you can't get a workout from that and moving that around, it might be a bigger issue, right?
I mean, that's a whole other hour we can talk about just that. I mean, the most important thing for me is technique.
Yeah.
If you have sound technique and good posture, then you're working the muscles you're intending to work. So you don't really need the kind of loads that you would do in a gym, because a lot of the loads that you're doing in the gym are being lifted by synergistic muscle groups, all the muscle groups around the ones you're intending to actually use.
Yeah.
So I brought it back down to basics. And for example, not using a backrest for all of my training, for all my presses, my weights have been cut by 50% because I don't have any leverage point. And by not having the leverage point, I'm able to focus more on the muscles holding my body up. So there's so much more core work being done at the same time as well.
That's awesome.
So that's been a great additive to my training. And also the bands. I have these bands that I bought, like $35 or something like that. And they came in like 2 months later. I finally got them. But I don't need to have the kind of weight that I would have in the gym, because I can focus on very specific movements that will focus on the muscle I'm intending to exercise, as opposed to pulling all this weight and having all these other muscle groups to get in the way. So it's been very effective. I honestly, I'm very pleased, that I have not lost a step that way, simply because I've been able to look at what I had and kind of reprogrammed. We have to reinvent ourselves right now. We're in an unprecedented time where we all have to figure out a way to do something that we love in a new way.
That makes sense.
You can find me at jasonfinney.com. You can find me at bodybyjason.com, on Instagram at jasonfinney. And Jason's always with 2 S's, because Mom liked it with 6 letters because it looked more balanced. So 2 S's. And of course, you can always pick up the Captain Pump book. It's on Amazon. It's a great read. It's great for kids between the ages of 7 and 11. If they're younger than 7, they can have it read to them. And if they're older, they can read it to their younger ones.
I'm actually going to be picking it up because I've got 3 little ones here, and I think it's really important, the stuff that you're doing. the last question I always end off with is in this COVID stuff. Let's face it, we're all locked in. We heard a couple ambulances go by. I hope everything's okay where you are. But
oh yeah, that's just a normal thing here.
You're in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite normal. With all this stuff going on, what's one thing you've done today? And I don't mean yesterday. I don't mean a week ago. I mean today. What's one thing you've done today to make yourself happy? Not anybody else, but yourself.
I got to tell you, all this preparation that I'm doing to do the Captain Pump YouTube, I'm loving this. I had to buy equipment that I haven't seen for 30 years, you know? I actually bought a keyboard because I have to do all of my own music, you know what I mean? And I have to do all these things that I used to do when I played in a band years ago. And I'm getting a kick out of doing this whole thing of learning and ordering. I have not spent so much time on Amazon in my life, you know, but that's where everything is. And I have to order all these specific things because I actually have to recreate, you know, the superhero. These two main characters. So you have Captain Pump and you have George the janitor. Those are my two main characters, and I have to play them. So I have to get the costumes ready. I have to get, you know, all the backdrops, and I have to, you know. So it's a fantastic time. I'm finding a way to not only keep busy, but keep my mind active and keep my body and mind happy during the times where I can't do anything else but be in my house.
Are you going to be playing the lady too that's against Captain Pump? If I read correctly, does that make sense? See, I did do my research.
Principal Barkalot. You might see a couple of guest appearances by Principal Barkalot. Yeah, you might.
Anyway, I want to thank you very much, Jason, for coming on. Please check him out, CaptainPump.com, JasonPinney.com, and BodyByJason.com. He'll help you out with whatever you need. Lose some of that tummy, because the Lord knows I need to. Thanks, Jason. I'm going to end the broadcast right now. Oh, you need to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I've noticed also during the pandemic is that I've been able to train so many people online. And that's something that I never thought would have been possible, is actually to go into a training situation when you're not in the same room with someone and actually get the same benefits that you would if you were right next to them. So if anybody out there wants help, I can train you virtually, no problem.
That's awesome. So remember that, everybody. Go get some virtual training, because we all need it.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yes, thank you.